Okay, what I'd like to do right now is to do a review of Act 1 so that you can view this and it will help you with your quiz over Act 1. The opening scene of Act 1, it takes place as Caesar is returning to Rome in triumph because he's just scored a victory over Pompey and Pompey's sons. And there are two tribunes, Flavius and Marullus, who are amongst the common people, and they're getting very angry at the common people because those people are wanting to cheer and celebrate Caesar's victory over Pompey. The tribunes are unhappy because they feel that the common people are disloyal, because at one point they were very excited whenever Pompey came into Rome and had been victorious, and they cheered for him, and now they're cheering for someone who just killed Pompey and Pompey's sons. So they basically chased the common people away after yelling at them about the whole thing. And at that point, the tribunes decide that as a protest, they will go around and take all the decorations from Caesar's statue, because they feel that there should not be such a big celebration for Caesar triumphing over Pompey, a Roman citizen. Okay, in scene 2, Julius Caesar comes in with his whole entourage, and there's a holiday being celebrated on this day, and that is the holiday, the Feast of Lupercal, which is a feast celebrating fertility. Antony is going to run in the race that they have for this holiday, and the Romans believed that if one of the runners in the race touches a woman who has been unable to have children, that she will become fertile. So Caesar asks Antony to please touch Calpurnia as he's running in the race, and of course Antony agrees to do so. At this point, we hear someone yell out, "Beware the Ides of March," and it's the Soothsayer who does this. The Ides of March are actually March 15th. And so he keeps shouting this out. He's saying to Caesar something horrible is going to happen on March 15th. And Caesar doesn't really pay a lot of attention. He basically says, oh, this guy's, just a dreamer. And he just ignores it. And then he moves away with his entourage. And then Cassius and Brutus start speaking. And Cassius says to Brutus, you haven't seemed yourself lately. Is there something on your mind? And Brutus admits, yes, he's a little concerned about all this popularity of Caesar and this thought of making Caesar a king or considering him a god even. And Cassius obviously feels that this is a terrible thing to have happen. He doesn't want it to happen, and he starts working on Brutus and explaining some things such as why Caesar could not be considered a god. For one thing, he almost drowned once, and Cassius had to save him. Cassius has seen him ill. He also has the falling sickness, which we call epilepsy, where he has seizures. And those things alone make it obvious that he's not a god, that he's a mortal man. And we do learn later that Caesar also is deaf in one ear, which would be another reason why he couldn't be considered a god. Meanwhile, Cassius tries to get Brutus to see that he himself, Brutus, is just as good as Caesar. Why is Caesar getting all this attention and whatnot? And he then, while they're having this discussion, they hear a crowd cheering, and then quiet, and then cheering again, and quiet, and then cheering a third time. And they don't know what's going on, but they're not really all that concerned about it at that point. They know that they'll find out what was going on. And then after this, Caesar comes back with his whole group of people, and Caesar looks at Cassius, and you can tell he doesn't like Cassius. He says that he has a lean and hungry look, and that doesn't mean hungry for food or anything. It's more hungry for maybe power. He has ambitions, And Caesar also says that Cassius thinks too much, and that makes for a dangerous man. Caesar would rather hang out with men who just like to party, take it easy, have no real ambitions, don't think a lot or think deeply about things. And Antony is that person. Antony is one of Caesar's closest friends, and he appears to be just kind of somebody who likes to party and play around and doesn't take anything seriously. And so Caesar feels that he is good to have close to him because he's not a dangerous person. He obviously has no ambitions or anything like that. Okay, shortly thereafter, Caesar and his friends leave, and Casca comes up and talks to Cassius, and they ask Casca what all that cheering was about, and Casca says, well, it's because Antony offered him a crown. He offered him a crown the first time, and the crowd was cheering and yelling and everything, and Caesar pushed away the crown. You know, he denied that he wanted it, very vehemently. And then Antony a second time offered him the crown, and this time Caesar also pushes it away, but he's a little more hesitant because it's obvious that he does want this crown. And the people are shouting and cheering, whether they're cheering for him to take it or they're cheering because he's refusing it, I really don't know. But then the third time that Antony offers the crown, we don't know whether Caesar would have taken or not, because what happens is Caesar's very emotional and everything, and this causes him to have a seizure. So as I said, he was an epileptic. So he has this seizure, and that really makes sure that he's not going to be able to take the crown at that point, and then they try to get him away from the people because they really don't want the people to see this. Then Casca says, well, after that, Cicero made a big speech, and they said, well, what was he talking about? And he said, well, he spoke Greek. The whole thing was in Greek, and they're asking, well, but what did he say? And he says, well, I don't know. It was all Greek to me. In other words, he really did not understand. Apparently, he doesn't know Greek. And but he does tell them that the two tribunes who took the decorations from Caesar's statues have been, they say, have been silenced, put to silence, which I assume means that they've been executed for having done that. And then everyone leaves except Cassius, who talks about how honorable Brutus is, but that he feels that maybe he can kind of twist his honorable nature in a way that will make him go along with Cassius in his plan to get rid of Caesar. And one way he decides that he can do that is that he forges letters, he puts important citizens' names on them, and in these letters, these people urge Brutus to do something to get rid of Caesar. And then he plans to have them set around Brutus's home and by his statue and that sort of thing, so that Brutus will read these and think that there's a whole group of important citizens who are calling upon him to do something about Caesar and to stop him from becoming a king or a god. All right, that's the end of scene 2. Okay, in scene 3, Casca and Cicero meet on a Roman street, and there's this huge storm going on, but it's not so much the storm that's bothering them. It's more that there's all kinds of weird things going on in Rome. For example, there was a man whose hand was on fire, and yet his flesh was not burning. A lion just strolled through the Capitol. An owl, which is a night bird, was seen during the daytime, and then there were other people running around on fire. And this is seen as a bad omen because it means that things are not the way they should be. And perhaps it is because of the people wanting to make Caesar a king or make him a god, that the real gods are sending these signs to say, basically don't do it. Casca then tells Cassius, who's just entered the picture, that the senators are planning at some point to crown Caesar as king. And Caesar, or Cassius really is against that. He makes it clear that he's against that. And at that point, a Cinna shows up, and Cassius takes the letters that he's forged and he gives them to Cinna and asks Cinna to go ahead and put them around where Brutus's home and wherever he might come upon these letters addressed to him. So Cinna agrees, and he leaves to go do that. And he's going to put them on his chair in the Senate. He's going to throw them through Brutus's window, and like I said, put them near Brutus's statue. And at that point, Cassius says, no matter what Brutus does, the people revere him so much that what they would see if we did the same thing, if we did something like, say, murdered someone, everybody would be against us. But if Brutus does it, it will seem like it was the right thing to do. And that's why they need to have Brutus with them, is that the people think of him, they respect him, they feel he's a very honest man. And so the key to this whole plot of getting rid of Caesar is to get Brutus to go along with it. Okay. Let's see if I missed anything. I don't think so. So if you took notes on what I just said, you study them or watch this again, you'll be ready for the quiz.